Let's be honest, right here, right now. Nobody can hear us. Picture a situation that every man has found himself in at least once. Night. Heavy breathing. You are working in bed like a lumberjack. Sweat is rolling down your temple, your back starts to ache treacherously, and your heart is pounding somewhere in your throat. You look at the clock, 20 minutes have already passed, and she is still just lying there, staring at the ceiling, or even worse, starting to sneak glances at the nightstand where her phone is. And in that moment, one panic-stricken thought races through your head. Not about passion, not about pleasure. You frantically start thinking about baseball. You imagine the green field, the crack of the bat hitting the ball, a tough slide into second base. You think about anything at all just to keep from finishing too quickly. You artificially hold yourself back, turning the act of love into an exhausting marathon. You believe the industry's main myth, the longer, the better. That if you last 40 minutes, you'll be a hero, an alpha male, a legend. But the truth we are going to reveal today is much harsher. While you were trying your hardest, she isn't admiring your stamina. She is tired. Her mouth is dry, and not just her mouth. She is getting bored. And all she wants right now is for you to finally finish so she can get some sleep. Sigmund Freud called this the reality principle, which always defeats the pleasure principle. Your reality is this. You are wasting a colossal amount of energy for nothing. You are missing the target. Today, we are going to flip the script. We will take the sport out of the bedroom and bring back efficiency. I will show you how a woman is physiologically wired and why Carl Jung said we project our desires onto others without understanding their true nature. You will learn why 6 minutes of precise, sniper-like work is worth an hour of meaningless hustle. We will break down a technique that will allow you to bring her to the peak faster than you can get tired. And in doing so, you will save your health, your back, and your manhood. But I must warn you, there is one hidden variable in this equation, one secret element that sexologists keep quiet about. I call it the phantom. Without it, any technique is just mechanics like assembling furniture. But with it, you gain power over her sensations. I will reveal the essence of this phantom at the very end because you need to be ready for this knowledge. Wait for the finale if you want to possess the full access code. And one more important point. This channel exists thanks to those who appreciate quality information and a masculine approach to business. If what you are about to hear hits you straight in the heart, if you feel the value, you have the opportunity to become a channel sponsor. It's not just support, it's a contribution to the development of a community where the truth is spoken. The link is in the description. And now, throw everything you've seen in movies out of your head. We are beginning our dive into real physiology. The biological timer, or why she outruns you in solo mode. To understand how to satisfy a woman, you need to stop thinking like a man. You need to look at the facts provided by science and dry statistics. And the first fact is shocking. When a woman is alone with herself, when she makes love to herself, she doesn't need a clock. She doesn't need 40 minutes. The average time for a woman to reach release in solo mode is 4 to 6 minutes. Think about those numbers. 4 minutes. That is her biological norm. That is the time it takes for her body to go from start to finish. So why does it take 5 or even 10 times longer with you? Why, when you enter the equation, an effective system fails? The answer lies not in magic and not in feelings. The answer is in pure mechanics and brain function. Let's break this process down under a microscope, layer by layer, so you understand exactly where you are losing control. When a woman gives pleasure to herself, she intuitively uses an access code that you most likely ignore. The first thing she does is completely shut off external stimuli. She isn't thinking about how she looks. She isn't thinking about whether she's sucking in her stomach. She goes into a trance. Her brain shifts to a different frequency. In this state, any extra sound, any sudden movement, any inappropriate question is like a bucket of ice water. It instantly throws her out of the trance, and she has to start all over again. The second secret of her solo efficiency is a terrifying, robotic monotony. Men often think sex should be like an action movie, fast cuts, different angles, unexpected twists, but look at how she acts herself. Her hand or toy moves in the exact same rhythm, at the exact same speed, with the exact same pressure, second after second, minute after minute. She finds that specific micro-rhythm that resonates with her nervous system and holds on to it like a climber holds on to a cliff ledge. Remember how you wind an old mechanical watch. You turn the crown evenly, smoothly, feeling the resistance of the spring. If you start jerking it, changing direction, shaking the mechanism, you'll just break the spring, but the watch won't run. Female arousal accumulates in exactly this way. Every repetitive movement is a small turn of the spring. The tension grows exponentially. But the moment you break the rhythm, the moment you decide, hey, let me change position or speed up twice as fast right now, the spring snaps. The tension drops to zero. And you start this Sisyphean labor all over again, sweating and not understanding why she still isn't close. The third element is sniper precision. In solo mode, a woman stimulates a very specific, tiny zone. She isn't trying to cover everything at once. She works with the most sensitive point where the concentration of nerve endings exceeds any reasonable limits. You, on the other hand, trying to be a good lover, often work in carpet bombing mode. You drop bombs over wide areas, hoping something will hit the target, but biology is relentless. Pinpoint, continuous action is always more effective than chaotic force. And here we come to the main paradox. You want to be diverse to surprise her. You want to show your entire arsenal. But her orgasm doesn't live in diversity, it lives in stability. Your desire to change positions every 3 minutes isn't mastery, it is the main mistake stealing your time and energy. It is what Jung might call a manifestation of the shadow, your hidden fear of seeming boring. But the paradox is that in bed, this stability that seems boring to you becomes her launchpad into space. Now that we understand the mechanism of her solo game, we face a challenge. How do we transfer this experience into a couple's dance? How can you, a man with different anatomy, become that perfect, tireless instrument for her that doesn't break the rhythm and hits the target exactly? We cannot turn into a vibrator, and thank God for that, but we can use a technique that mimics this principle, a technique that allows you to synchronize with her biological timer. But before we move on to practice, I will ask you to do one small action. If you have already recognized yourself in the description of the marathon runner or realized why past attempts dragged on, hit the like button. This is a signal to me that we speak the same language. And check your subscription, because next we are going to break down things that aren't discussed at the family dinner table. We are moving on to analyzing the main mistake made by 90% of men raised on adult films, the director's trap and the illusion of variety. Remember any adult movie you've seen. What happens there? The camera changes angles every 30 seconds. The actors change positions every 2 minutes, first on the table, then against the wall, then complex acrobatics on the chandelier. It looks impressive. It arouses the viewer, that is, you when you're sitting in front of the screen, and this is where the trap lies. You transferred this script into real life, forgetting one fundamental thing. Porn is not filmed for the actress's pleasure. It is filmed for the visual pleasure of the viewer. It's a show. It's a circus, and your bedroom is not a circus arena. In real life, changing positions frequently works like a reset button on a computer. Imagine you are boiling water in a kettle. The water has heated up to 90 degrees, the first bubbles have appeared, just a little more and it will boil. But at that moment, you decide that the kettle is uncomfortable on this burner. You turn off the gas, pick up the kettle, move it to another burner, light the fire again. What happens to the water? It instantly cools. The temperature drops. You need time again to ramp up the heat.
And this kettle paradox is your main tragedy. You think variety is the key. You think that if you flip her onto her stomach and then put her on her knees, she will appreciate your creativity. But physiology is ruthless. Every change of position resets her accumulated arousal by 30 or 40%. Blood drains from the pelvic area, sensitivity drops, and instead of soaring to the peak, she falls back to the foot of the mountain. You force her to climb Everest, but every 5 minutes you drop her down on the safety rope. Now ask yourself, why are you doing this? Jung would say you were driven by a desire to compensate for insecurity. You're afraid that simple, monotonous movement isn't enough. You think just sex is too boring. But the truth is, in the moment of intimacy, a woman isn't looking for a circus performance. She is looking for rhythm. She is looking for a trance. And your task is not to entertain her like a clown in the arena, but to become a reliable, predictable mechanism for her body that works without failure. Stop being a director. Become a machine, become a metronome, and you will see how her reaction changes. The geometry of pleasure and the double pressure technique. Now that we've thrown the Hollywood scripts out of our heads, let's get to the essence, to the mechanics that turn 6 minutes into an eternity of pleasure. This technique is known in narrow circles of sexologists as the cat alignment technique or the merging method, but I call it simpler, the Millstone Technique, because it changes the very principle of your movement. Forget what you were taught in the locker room. Forget the piston principle. In and out, that's for rookies. Masters act differently. The classic male mistake is working on depth and speed of thrusts. You try to drive a pile. But female anatomy is trickier. The most sensitive zone is not the depth of the tunnel. It is the front wall and, most importantly, the clitoris, which is located on the outside. When you work like a piston, you often fly past these zones, creating only friction, which eventually starts to irritate. The Millstone technique suggests you change the vector. You must shift your body higher, high enough so that the base of your penis, your pubic bone, presses tightly, even to the point of crunching against her clitoris. Imagine you are not trying to pierce space, but trying to iron out a thick fabric. Your movement changes. Instead of large amplitude back and forth thrusts, you start making short pressing up and down movements or circular rotations with your pelvis. You do not break contact. Your tool remains inside, but the main action happens outside. Your bone presses on her button, grinding it like 2 millstones grind grain into flour. This creates a double resonance effect, stimulation of the G-spot inside and powerful continuous pressure on the clitoris outside. This changes everything. First, you stop wasting energy on wild leaps. You lie on her, you are relaxed, only the pelvis works. Your back thanks you. Second, for her, this sensation is 10 times more intense. Instead of chaotic impacts, she feels powerful, all-consuming pressure that doesn't stop for a second. Blood rushes in instantly, lubrication is released more actively, and most importantly, in this position, 90% of women are able to reach the finish line in those same 4 to 6 minutes because you are hitting the target exactly, giving her not a second of respite. But there is a nuance you need to know about. At first, it will seem to you that you aren't doing anything. Your brain will scream, "Hey, where's the action? We're barely moving." And here you will have to show willpower. Shut that voice up. Watch her reaction. Listen to her breathing. You will see her eyes roll back and her fingers dig into your back. This is the mark of quality. You are not running around the field. You are standing at the goal line taking penalty kicks, one after another, precise, hard, without fuss. This is top-class piloting. And while you digest this information, I have a simple masculine question for you. Be honest. Write your age number in the comments. It is very important for me to understand who is listening to me right now. Young lions just learning to hunt or experienced wolves wanting to sharpen their skills. Just the number. This will help me make the content even more precise. And don't forget the sponsor button. If this channel brings you value, support it so we can dig even deeper.
The adrenaline paradox and the kitchen table phenomenon. Now let's talk about time. About how we drive ourselves into the romantic evening trap. The scenario is familiar to everyone. Candles, music, wine, long conversations. You prepare for sex like it's a space shuttle launch. You allocate 2 hours for it. And what happens? Boredom. Anticipation kills passion. The body relaxes so much that it's too lazy to engage the afterburners. But remember your brightest, most animalistic sex. Most likely, it wasn't in a bedroom with rose petals. It was spontaneous, on the kitchen table while the kids were watching cartoons in the next room, or in the car before going up to the apartment, or in an elevator. Why does this quickie burn into memory stronger than a 3-hour marathon? The answer lies in hormones. Adrenaline. When you have little time, when there is a risk someone will walk in, or when you are simply late, your brain mobilizes all resources. Tunnel vision turns on. All superfluous thoughts about work, about loans, about the faucet that needs fixing are cut off instantly. Only you, her, and animal hunger remain. At this moment, a woman isn't thinking about how her hair looks. She turns on in seconds. Time scarcity works as a powerful aphrodisiac. Nature is wise. If a predator has cornered a prey, it must eat it quickly before competitors arrive. This ancient instinct lives in us, and you can use it even if no one is bothering you. Create artificial scarcity. No need for an hour of foreplay. Tell her, "I want you right now. We have 10 minutes before the kettle boils," or "before the movie starts." Limit the time with frames. This will work like a starter pistol. She will understand, now is not the time for whims, now is the time for action. You will be surprised how hot and responsive she can be when she realizes there is no time for a warm-up. You remove the water from the process and leave pure alcohol. Yes, this won't replace long nights of love, but as a tool to maintain the fire and save your energy, it works flawlessly. Remember, sometimes fast food eaten with wild hunger tastes better than a chef's dish you waited 2 hours for. But even in this high-speed mode, there is a rule that cannot be broken: the statue rule. When you see she is close, when her breathing becomes erratic and her body tenses like a string, most men make a fatal mistake. They start to speed up. They think, "Aha, the finish is close, gotta push harder," and that is a failure. At this moment, you must do exactly the opposite. You must freeze in one rhythm, become a rock. Why this is critically important and how the plateau effect works, we will break down right now. The art of statics and entering the plateau. Imagine she is balancing on a tightrope over an abyss. She has already walked half the way. She sees the goal, but her knees are shaking. She's afraid of falling. And at this moment, you, as her safety line, start shaking the rope. You start speeding up the tempo, changing the angle, moving faster. What will happen? She will fall. Not into an abyss, of course, but into a pit of disappointment. The orgasm will fail. She will lose concentration, and the wave of arousal will recede, leaving only irritation. This is the least obvious but most important part of the sniper method. When a woman approaches the peak, she enters a state sexologists call the plateau. It is a narrow path at the top of a mountain. At this moment, her sensitivity is heightened to the limit. Even the slightest change in stimulation feels like an electric shock. If you speed up, it becomes too intense, painful, or simply wrong for her. Her brain screams, "Put it back how it was." But you, in the heat of passion, think you're helping her. Remember the golden rule: if it works, don't touch it. As soon as you feel she has started to contract, that her breathing has become rapid and shallow, freeze your settings. Do not change the speed by a single millimeter. Do not change the depth. Do not change the pressure. Turn into a machine. Continue doing exactly the same thing that brought her to this point. Your stability is the handrail she holds onto to step over the edge. She needs to lean on your rhythm to let herself go. It might seem to you that you're moving too slowly. You will want an animalistic finale, but endure for another 30 seconds. It is precisely in statics, in this hypnotic repetition, that the most powerful, body-shaking releases are born. You give her safety. You are essentially saying with your body, "I am holding the rhythm. I control the situation. You can relax and fall into this abyss." And believe me, when she falls there, the reward for you will be far more valuable than your own sensations from friction.
This requires discipline. This requires control over your own beast, but this is what distinguishes a boy from a husband. A boy wants to finish himself. A man knows how to bring his partner to the end using cold calculation and a hot body. And if you learn to catch this moment of entering the plateau and become an unshakable foundation for her pleasure, you will become indispensable to her. Because 99% of other men at this moment start fussing and ruin everything. And here I want to take a short pause. Look how deep we are digging.
We aren't talking about superficial tips from glossy magazines. We are analyzing the biomechanics and neurobiology of the process. This is the level of immersion you will find in my every episode. And if this is the approach you were looking for, if you value truth without censorship, now is the perfect moment to subscribe to the channel. Don't lose this source. And we are moving on to the most powerful tool that requires no physical effort from you: verbal access codes to her subconscious. Many men in bed behave like a prisoner of war under interrogation, or like mute laborers performing heavy work. They puff like old, overloaded steam locomotives. They make inarticulate sounds of strain. But throughout the entire act, they don't utter a single meaningful word. And this is not just an omission, it is a strategic, fatal mistake that costs you half your success. You must understand one fundamental thing that the majority ignores. Female hearing is not just a sense organ. It is a powerful erogenous zone, just as sensitive as the clitoris, the neck, or the inner thigh. Ears are a direct, bare wire to her brain, to the center of her darkest fantasies. And if you don't use this wire, you are working at half strength. But let's immediately cut off the excess. I am not talking right now about banal, sweet compliments. I am not talking about whispering tender poems about love to her, or saying what beautiful eyes she has and how you appreciate her rich inner world. Leave these vanilla lyrics for romantic walks under the moon, for the first date in a cafe, or for texting. In the moment of horizontal, animalistic, sweaty intimacy, when adrenaline is off the charts, completely different codes work. Dirty codes. Imperative codes. This is the language of dominance, not courtship. Let's break down the mechanics of this process from a neurobiological perspective. When a woman is on the edge of arousal, her brain works in a special mode. Her prefrontal cortex, that evolutionarily new part of the brain responsible for social control, for decency, for plans for tomorrow, for thoughts like, did I turn off the iron, and what will the neighbors think, starts to glitch. It flickers trying to maintain control. And your task, as the dominant one, as the leader, is to help her flip this switch off completely. You must silence the voice of her inner critic. Words at this moment work like neurotriggers, like command lines in programming. Short, commanding phrases like, come for me, I am yours, I want to see you do it, look me in the eyes when I enter. These aren't just phrases. They are encryption keys that hack her social defense. You are essentially giving her official permission, notarized by the seal of your voice, to be a bad girl. You take all moral responsibility for what is happening upon yourself. You tell her without words, I am in charge. I decide. You are allowed everything. Relax and obey. Many men are afraid to be rude. They think it will insult the woman, that she will get up and leave. But in the context of passion, in the context of high hormonal tension, the word bitch or slut, spoken in a low, confident, vibrating timbre, can trigger a dopamine release in her comparable to a direct shot of adrenaline to the heart. Why does this work so powerfully? Because of the law of polarity. In ordinary life, she might be anyone: a strict financial director, a caring mother of 3, a responsible doctor. She wears the good girl mask 24 hours a day. She is tired of controlling everyone and everything. It's a heavy burden.
In bed with you, she wants to shed this burden. She wants to stop making decisions. She craves polarity. She wants to submit to a force greater than her own. Your dirty words create a safe corridor for her psyche, a fenced territory where she can release the brakes and let out her inner demon, which she hides from society. Dirty whispers penetrating the ear hit straight into the limbic system, the oldest part of the brain responsible for instincts, bypassing consciousness, logic, and critical thinking. This accelerates her finish multiple times over. You push her to the edge of the abyss with words when she is afraid to take that last step herself. But there is another level of verbal influence that few know about. This is the mirror technique, or auditory confirmation. Describe what you are doing in real time, or describe what you are feeling right now. You are so tight. I like how you squeeze. I'm going to explode from you. Your skin is so hot. This creates a powerful feedback loop. She doesn't see herself from the outside, but she hears you. She hears that she is desired. She hears confirmation of her sexual power over you. She understands she is driving you crazy, and this arouses her even more, tightening the spiral of pleasure. Silence, on the other hand, creates a vacuum. A vacuum of uncertainty is a killer of arousal. In silence, hearing only your heavy sniffing and the creaking of the bed, she starts to think, and thoughts are the enemy of orgasm. She thinks, does he even like it? Why is he silent? Maybe I'm doing something wrong? Do I look fat in this position? Am I making weird sounds? Do not give her a single centimeter of space for these destructive thoughts. Fill her head with your voice. Become the only voice in her skull, ordering her to enjoy, forget everything, and follow you into the abyss. The physiology of friction, or when time works against you. And now let's return from the heavens of neurolinguistics to the harsh, wet, or unfortunately not very wet anymore, reality of the physical world. There is one purely biological, medical factor that makes long sex without breaks not just a useless activity, but a frankly harmful and traumatic process for a woman. And the name of this factor is the physiology of natural lubrication. Men, having watched enough adult films, often exist in a dangerous illusion that a woman is an eternal spring, that if she is aroused, then down there she will always have an inexhaustible ocean of lubrication. This is a myth that ruins fates. Female physiology is wired much more complexly. Natural lubrication is not tap water. It is a complex biological secretion, plasma that seeps through the vessel walls in a process of transudation. And this process has a strict biological limit. The body cannot produce this secretion infinitely on industrial scale. Even with the strongest desire, with the wildest, most insane passion, there is a window of opportunity. Usually this is 15, maximum 20 minutes of active, intense mechanical friction. After this mark, lubrication starts to change its properties. It thickens, becomes viscous, or simply dries up and absorbs back into the tissues. This is a law of physics and hydraulics that is useless to argue with. What happens next when you, chasing your selfish time record, continue your powerful reciprocating movements? What gynecologists call the sandpaper effect begins. The mucous membrane of female sexual organs is an incredibly delicate, sensitive tissue, comparable perhaps only to the cornea of the eye. When the protective layer of lubrication is gone, every movement of yours, every thrust begins to inflict microtrauma. Micro cracks appear, invisible to the eye, but felt by the nerves. First, it just becomes slightly unpleasant for her. A sensation of burning or sand arises. Then it grows into real pain, truly sharp, cutting pain. But here lies the main tragedy of communication between the sexes. In 9 cases out of 10, she will remain silent. Why is she silent when she is in pain? Because she is afraid to offend you. She is afraid to hit your fragile male self-esteem. In her head since childhood sits the programming that she must be convenient, that she must endure for the pleasure of her beloved. She continues to moan, simulating passion. She might even scream, supposedly from delight. But in her head spins one single panic-stricken thought. God, when will he finally finish? Let this end right now. Please, faster.
And instead of a cosmic orgasm, she gets irritation, pain, a feeling of being used, and as a nice bonus, post-coital cystitis or vaginitis the next morning due to rubbed and inflamed mucous membranes. And then you wonder why a week later she has a headache and avoids intimacy. The body remembered the pain. The body remembered the torture. By dragging out the process for the sake of your ego to check the box, I could last 40 minutes without coming and tell friends about it, you are hurting her. In the direct, physical sense of the word, you turn pleasure into mechanical torture by friction. That is why the concept of 6 minutes or sniper sex is not selfishness, as some moralists might think. It is the highest form of humanism and care for your partner's health. Doing everything quickly, powerfully, wetly, and efficiently while nature is on your side, while lubrication is there, while tissues are ready and elastic. This is true mastery. This is professionalism. Don't wait for the mechanism to start creaking, smoking, and sparking. If you feel the process is dragging on, if you realize 20 minutes have already passed and there is no finish, you have two paths, and both require decisiveness. First, immediately, without embarrassment, use high-quality artificial lubrication, water or silicone-based. And this is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign that you understand how the body works. Second, and in my opinion the more correct one, radically change tactics and apply that same Millstone technique we talked about in the last part. Why millstones? Because this technique is based on pressure, not sliding. When you press your pubic bone against the clitoris, you don't need perfect lubrication inside, as there is no amplitude back and forth friction. You stimulate nerve endings with static pressure, bypassing the dryness problem. Protect her sensations, protect her delicate anatomy, think about the consequences, and she will want you again and again rather than inventing a migraine just to avoid another sandpaper torture. Finale, that secret element, the master's breath and access code. We have reached the final line. We analyzed the mechanics of movement, the physics of friction, the chemistry of adrenaline, and the neurolinguistics of dirty words. But sex is not just bodies. It is not just a set of frictions and sounds. It is first and foremost a collision of two psyches, two energy potentials. And here, the phantom comes into play. I specifically dragged this intrigue out until the very end of the video because without understanding the technical base, this secret would be useless to you. Now you are ready to accept the master key. The phantom is not a position from the Kama Sutra. It is not a magic pill from the pharmacy. It is your internal state. It is a mental setting. It is the master of breath mode. What is the core problem of most men? Remember yourself. When you approach the finale, or when you're afraid of losing face, when you worry, what if I come too fast? One unnoticeable but fatal thing happens to your body. You stop breathing. Have you noticed this? In the moment of highest tension, you reflexively hold your breath. You lock the air in your chest, creating monstrous pressure inside yourself. You tense your abs to a stone state. Your shoulders rise to your ears, jaws clench. You turn into a spasmed, trembling ball of nerves. And the problem isn't just that you lack oxygen. The problem is that the woman reads this. On an unconscious level, through the work of mirror neurons, the evolutionary mechanism of empathy, she feels your anxiety. Your tension, as if by an invisible Wi-Fi, is instantly transmitted to her, and her body tenses up too in response. Her pelvic floor muscles spasm. Her uterus contracts. Orgasm is blocked on a physical level. You are both tense, you are both working, you are both sweating, but there is no magic. There is struggle, there is labor, but there is no flight, because the captain of the ship is in panic. The secret of the phantom is simple as a point-blank shot. Whoever controls the breath controls sex. Your primal biological task is to breathe deeper and slower than she does, even in the most intense moment, especially in the most intense moment when instincts scream to you, freeze and run. You must hack this instinct. Your body must work like a huge blacksmith's bellows. A deep, loud, drawn-out inhale through the nose, filling the lower belly, not the chest. A slow, heavy, relaxed exhale through the mouth with parted lips.
Relax your shoulders. Drop them down. Relax your jaw. This is, by the way, a secret of Special Forces fighters. A relaxed jaw instantly removes tension from the psyche. When you breathe like this, evenly, powerfully, deeply, you send her ancient reptilian brain a powerful signal of safety. You tell her in body language, I am calm, I am confident, I control the situation, it is safe here, there are no tigers, I hold this space. And receiving this non-verbal signal, she relaxes, her spasms go away, her fears disappear, she surrenders to you. She allows herself to fly away because she feels that the captain of the ship holds the wheel firmly and knows the course. This is the mental switch. The Millstone techniques are your hands and body, and the master's breath is your will. It is your inner silence amidst the storm of passion. Combine the Millstone technique with deep, calm, rhythmic breathing. Add to this cocktail a dirty whisper allowing her to be bad. Don't forget the preliminary mental warm-up in the kitchen, the oven metaphor, and you will get a nuclear mix. You will get that very 6-minute protocol that works flawlessly. You will become the man she will remember with trembling knees, even years later if you suddenly break up. Not because you could pound for an hour without stopping like a soulless piston pump, but because in 6 minutes you could turn her soul inside out, giving her a feeling of total safety and total sweet submission. You will give her what 99% of modern, fussy, eternally anxious men cannot give, the opportunity to be a weak woman next to a strong, calm man. Let's draw a final line under our conversation. We started by destroying the marathon myth and arrived at the philosophy of energy management. And I want you to leave this video with one clear, crystal clear thought. You are not obligated to be an endurance athlete. You must be a sniper. A mature, smart, experienced man values time and energy. If you can deliver cosmic pleasure to her in 6 to 10 minutes, you are a master. You are an alpha. If you need an hour of sweaty fuss and 10 position changes to achieve the same result, you are still a student. You are simply burning resources for nothing. Learn to feel her rhythm, not impose your selfish tempo. Learn to be static like a rock when you want to run. Learn to breathe deeply when passion chokes your throat. And you will be surprised how little time a woman actually needs to lose her head over the right man. Sex is not a sport. Sex is a dialogue of nervous systems, and now you have the full dictionary for this dialogue. Try it. Don't try to implement everything at once tonight. Start small. Remove the fuss. Stop changing positions. Freeze in the plateau. And just breathe. And now I have a last request for you. We are gathering collective male experience here, without censorship and embellishment. Write in the comments which of these techniques, millstones, dirty words, or master's breath, seems the most difficult for you to execute. Or maybe you have your own quick start secret that works flawlessly. Share your wisdom. I will pin the best comments so everyone can see them. Like this video if this breakdown was useful and open your eyes to the truth. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next episode, where we will break down even more forbidden topics of male physiology. Be efficient. Be men. Talk to you soon.